there's an epic battle raging in Natasha Merrick's head. She hears voices. Some she calls good ones.
If I'm having a bad day, a voice will come very soothing. Sit down with us for a while.
Go outside, make some cocoa, and then have a bath.
Others she calls bad voices.
This one calls herself the Queen, and she said, "My specialty is causing you emotional pain."
I consider it an art form.
She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but treatment, medications didn't ease her distress. So she turned her back on doctors and embraced the good voices to heal herself.
They have the power to help me. Nobody knows what they are. It's an opinion, whether you think they're real or not. But they're starting to show me they can help me.
She's part of something called the Hearing Voices movement, groups meant to empower people to live with their voices. Some say the movement is a path to recovery. Others say it whitewashes the harsh realities of psychosis.
It started for Natasha at age 18, a sensation that something was touching her. It got painful, like a finger screwing into her ear. It started to affect her sleep. And then when she was 21, she heard a voice.
I was just dumping out some garbage, and all of a sudden a child's voice started calling my name. Like, Natasha, Natasha, like this. You're like, what's that? Why am I hearing a voice?
After months, then years of touching and voices getting worse.
This voice would answer, "I like to hurt you," and be all devilish.
She eventually checked into a hospital.
And the next day they gave me medication, and I said, "No, I don't want that." Well, you don't get to say no in hospital. They're like, you have to take it. So I was now on medication without wanting to be.
So began her life as a mental patient. Over 20 years, she figures she's been prescribed 20 different drugs, each one with a side effect, it seemed. She managed to complete a fine arts degree, but the voices continued and got worse. Doctors' diagnoses ranged from schizophreniform D to delusional disorder not otherwise specified to schizoaffective.
At the end of the day, a lot of it amounts to the same thing.
Which is what?
Just something wrong with your brain. So you are constantly monitoring yourself, trying to make sure you're okay, and trying to say, is that thought okay? Is that thought okay? So you're really self-conscious, really aware. Your self-esteem plummets because you have this terrible thing. You're crazy, you're not like other people.
If you call it an auditory hallucination, there's nowhere to go except take medication to fix that. If you talk about hearing voices, you're acknowledging the fact that it's not necessarily an illness. If you want to sort of check in about how your voices are affecting you right now.
When Andrea Horowitz heard of the Hearing Voices movement, she was keen to start groups here.
Because, it's hard to not believe in demons when the demons keep talking to you.
Yes.
So that's been troubling me a bit.
An occupational therapist, part of North Vancouver's mental health team, she's run Hearing Voices groups for 3 years now.
Are your good voices around during that time to help you?
I've learned that if I'm jangly and panicky, they can't reach me.
It's a safe place, she says, for people to learn to cope with their voices and probe deeper into traumatic experiences so often suffered by those diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Taking a pill can only go so far. People have to actually find meaning in their voices, do some work to try and come to understand the role that the voices play in their life, because for some people, they're going to live with voices for their whole life.
And when it gets too invasive, I can talk to the voice like a psychotherapist. It sounds like I hear you saying you want my attention.
And how does the voice respond to that?
It quietens down. Yeah.
The philosophy is, when voice hearers find their own meaning in the voices, healing can result. For Natasha, it meant embracing her good voices.
The good voices helped me, but to get myself out of this negative place where I was being attacked into a more positive place.
Her breakthrough after a mental health team helped her find housing. She was visited by her uncle Jack, a pilot who was shot down and died in World War II. She'd never met him. When her deceased grandmother also appeared, Natasha spoke to them.
You've been visiting me for a long time, both of you. Can you help me with this touching, for heaven's sakes? And they said yes.
She began to meditate, spending hours in peaceful places as a team of good voices, she calls them spirit guides, and these are her renditions of them, counseled her on how to fight the bad voices. Slowly but surely, the bad voices departed.
It was like someone taking a sliver out. It was a feeling of relief, right? And it would go on and on and on, and then finally the thing would let go, and that one would vanish. And
What was that like?
yay, hallelujah, more like it. It would be gone forever. It was like just poof, gone.
But it's hard to convince Dr. Bill McEwen those with serious mental illnesses can simply treat themselves.
So you should have somebody look at that to make sure it doesn't get infected. Okay? So go see the nurse, will you?
The head of psychiatry at St. Paul's Hospital regularly patrols Vancouver's inner city, prescribing antipsychotic drugs if necessary.
Sometimes people, when they've been smoking a lot of crack or methamphetamine, what happens is they don't sleep, and then that sleep deprivation pushes their thoughts, in a negative way.
He certainly sees hearing voices groups as a plus for mental health therapy.
For people who are not needing to be in hospital, or people who are not needing to have significant levels of medications, it can be very, very helpful. Is the paranoia to the degree it was before?
No, it's not as bad, but it's there.
Okay.
But one of the hallmarks of psychosis is a patient can't recognize he or she is sick. And he says many need meds, sometimes involuntary hospitalization.
We have a mental health act because there are many people with the psychosis of schizophrenia that lack that insight and can get themselves into terrible situations. Do I understand that I'm hearing a voice which is telling me to kill myself, and this is not a thing we want to have, that it's not real and it is actually part of an illness? When you have people like that who do not have that insight, you really have to do everything you can to try and say, how do we get you into safety and treatment and get rid of that?
In society at large, hearing voices is seen as a sign of madness, which it is not. It is an expression of a person's difficult emotions.
The movement's founder, Dutch psychiatrist Marius Rome, has in fact drawn criticism from some in the psychiatric community for asserting that psychiatry and medication often get in the way of recovery.
But I have been involuntarily hospitalized before, which it was really scary and upsetting and kind of traumatic.
But at this group, most are on medication and reject claims the Hearing Voices movement is anti-medication or anti-psychiatry.
Well, I've been working with my doctors on doing my med change the last 5 weeks of the psychosis units, trying to get a reality check. And it's frustrating because I've been on meds since I was 18. The voices just have not subsided at all.
In a Hearing Voices group, no one would ever say to him, well, maybe you should come off your medication because you're not really ill. It allows a space for people to explore their own experience in whatever way makes sense for them.
Natasha Merrick has been drug-free for about 5 years now, still doing battle with the bad voices in her head.
I feel I'm on the last leg of clearing away the bad voices. Once they're gone, I'll be able to function again. And the good voices are really adding to my life. is a big relief, and it's kind of exciting. Yeah, sometimes I'm like Rip Van Winkle. I'm like, I don't know how it would feel to be free. I'm just waiting.
She hopes to recover her artistic voice, something that just dried up. But her future definitely includes voices in her head. That suits her just fine. Duncan McHugh, CBC News, Vancouver.